Sometimes you're flush and sometimes you're bust. And when you're up, it's never as good as it seems. And when you're down, you never think you're going to be up again. But life goes on. Remember that. Money isn't real, George. It doesn't matter. It only seems like it does.
Dude, you get lots of love from me, man.
Another episode.
Another one. Staying in Trouble. Adam Short.
Eric Humes.
Hey, dude. Have you been wearing your mask every day?
Is right after midnight. Put it on in my sleep.
So anyways, I get this on Instagram, LVAC, where I go work out. They send a little message. It says that you got to wear the mask in the gym. And I'm like, dude, how in the heck am I supposed to do that? So I go in there this morning, and I'm sporting the mask, and I walk in with it, and I start my workout, and I can't do it. I'm like, I can't. I took it off, put it in my pocket. Like, if someone has a problem, then they have a problem.
Manager took a picture, sent me a text, actually. Saw that you had put it on your top of your head.
Dude, I was done with it. Some guys are only wearing it over their nose, like they have it bunched up over their nose, which looks stupid. But yeah, dude, once I start working out, I don't know how anyone can do that. Like, I probably would pass out.
Yeah.
Seriously, pass out.
You can.
I think it's a little crazy.
We got a special guest here today.
We do. Do you wear a mask?
No, I don't even have one.
You don't have one?
Perry, it sounds like Perry, what he's trying to say is he's in the market.
He's in the market for one?
Yeah.
I could get you one of these golden night looking ones.
That was nice. A little too heavy, though. Looks like a winter edition.
I feel like the masks are turning more into a fashion statement now than they
Well,
are.
it's definitely a political statement, that's for sure. Only this country can put a mask into a political, I don't know. That's a whole nother podcast.
We did. So, Mr. Rockwood, give us a little background, where you're from, what some of your specialties are.
So my name is Perry Rockwood, and I was originally born in Salt Lake City, Utah. But when I was 3, my family moved to Seattle, Washington. And
Go Hawks!
Yes, go Hawks, of course. Love them.
Our listenership just went up right there. Everybody, I can see it. I can see the visionary. Everyone's got the 12 up in the air. Let's go, get them up.
Exactly. Yeah, it's great being a Seahawks fan there. But yeah, I just grew up there and in a small town just south of Seattle, and I've known my wife since we were 10 years old, and we grew up together. And then
I feel like I'm watching.
Did you date in high school?
No, we never dated in high school.
You just knew each other?
Yeah, I think we kissed a couple times.
Oh.
But yeah,
some
we
people
never
would say
dated.
that's dating, I guess. I don't know.
Oh, he's talking about a party friendship, is what he's saying.
Yeah, we would just flirt.
Party
a little bit.
favors.
Yeah.
But then she matured and I matured, and it was right, you know. And then so we just graduated college at BYU Idaho in Rexburg, Idaho, and we just moved out here to Vegas a couple of months ago.
And you have a podcast.
Yes, I do.
Tell us about that.
So I have a podcast I started at the beginning of this last NBA season. It's called the NBA Pick and Roll Podcast. I love the NBA. I love basketball. I've loved it my whole life, and my friends and I would always talk about it. So we're like, we might as well just start a podcast because we talk about it anyways.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been great. It's awesome.
Nice.
Awesome, man.
Well, so, you're no longer a Sonics fan. So did you digress to like a Trailblazers fan now, or where do your loyalties lie now? Are you just going south, or you going east? Where are you going with your fanship?
Well, the person who first introduced me to the NBA was a diehard Kobe fan. So from the time I was 8 years old, I loved Kobe. He's always been my favorite player. So since then, I've been a diehard Lakers fan. Even before LeBron went there or anything. I'm not a big
Adam,
wagon.
let me help you out. He's been to LA twice, and really it was actually Anaheim. No one told him that it was actually there's a
I've
difference.
been to Disneyland a few times.
I like the Lakers too, man.
Yeah.
You're a Dodgers fan. Why wouldn't you?
Yeah, but you
don't even know what a basketball is.
Yeah, but wait a minute. And here's a good topic we can talk about is why have to have one team to be loyal to? That's how I came with baseball. The reason I was a Dodger fan is when I was a little kid, the first major league game I went to was in Dodger Stadium. First pro game, I fell in love with the sport, first of all, but being able to be there in the Oral Hershiser on the mound, it was a neat time when I was at an age that I fell in love with the game. So then I always just kind of favored the Dodgers. But I love the game 10 times more than I ever would the Dodgers. I'll catch a game anytime I can. I don't care who's playing. If I'm vacationing when I went to Chicago with some friends, I went to a Cubs game.
Exactly.
For sure. And I didn't care who they were playing. I just wanted to go to a game, especially in some of these older fields. So is it possible? There's a question. Is it possible that you can be a fan of any sport without being loyal to one team?
I definitely think you can. If you think about the NBA, it's completely run by the star players. I think more than any other sport because it's so personal and you're right there in the action when you're watching. And so I think especially people in like my generation, the younger generation, they follow players more than they do an actual team.
Oh, really?
And so, yeah.
Is that because of fantasy sports? Because they probably pick them on their
maybe
team?
that, or just because, the players have their shoes now in the stores. So you go to the store and you want to buy the new Kyrie Irving shoes. And the next season he goes to a different team. And you don't care what team he's on. You just love his shoes.
The player is the brand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think you talk about being a Lakers fan, right? And we're talking about King James is, by him moving to LA, it took his brand more national than just being back east. And, you talk about Kobe and what a brand ambassador he was and what a brand ambassador, ESPN just got done doing the series, on Michael Jordan. And I mean, that's mesmerizing.
Oh, yeah.
And the Jordan brand is one of the most recognized brand in the globe.
Oh, yeah.
And so with basketball, I definitely, we had UNLV cheer head coach Alex White on just recently, and we talked about how like cheer as a sport is a true team sport, and versus basketball or other sports that are superstar centric. Football is a team sport. Yeah, you have your quarterback, your running back, and your offensive standouts, but doesn't matter how good your quarterback is. If he's getting hit, if you have no line out front, you have nothing.
Yeah.
And so, with basketball though, it's all superstar centric, and so.
But it is fun to watch those out of the blue players step it up, like.
Yeah.
Amazingly, and they come from left field and they take all the attention and stuff. To me, that was the inaugural year of the Golden Knights. You had an entire team of like misfits almost. They weren't playing in the teams they came from before, minus our goalie. But most of them, I mean, they were all third line players? Easy. I think so, dude. And they came back and they wanted to show something.
Wild Bill was not a third line player.
Okay. What, one guy? I'm just saying.
There was a few.
I'm just saying.
Eric Howell was still not a third line.
You mix in an all-star goalie. You mix in some passionate guys that want to prove to the teams that they were on that they weren't probably getting the ice that they deserved. And then you put them on a team and then they just unleashed.
Well, I think there was a lot of magic in that team as well. Going back to the superstars versus your passion for the sport is. I think this is going to be an interesting year. Like, actually, I was just thinking about this. Like, I call it the post-COVID era.
It won't be interesting. It's going to suck, dude.
Well, one of the things they're talking about, especially with basketball, is, do you guys remember? Have you ever heard of the Seattle Seahawks?
Yes.
Okay, so in the last Super Bowl that they played in, one of their wide receivers, I forget his name off the top of my head, and he caught. It was the game versus the Patriots. Do you remember the last two plays of that Super Bowl?
Yeah, when they didn't give the ball to Marshawn.
Yeah, and the play before that, do you remember what it was?
Yeah, it was what was it? The play before.
Do you remember, Adam?
No.
Okay,
I probably got up to get some chips and dip at that time.
So Patriots were up, and I think they're up by 4. Russell Wilson throws it to the wideout, and the wideout catches it on like the 4-yard line. Remember that?
Yeah.
Okay. So that wideout, do you know where he worked 2 weeks prior to the Super Bowl?
Dairy Queen.
What's your guess?
Microsoft.
Foot Locker.
No way.
Yes.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yes. And so the post-COVID era is actually talking about, especially for basketball teams, and this is why I think baseball is struggling. For basketball teams, they're talking about having you'd have your starting team, which would be your starters and your backups, and then you're going to have another set team that only practice. They should also have like an A team and a B team, so that if the A team gets sick, the B team can come in and play.
Oh, wow.
And they're talking about that on the professional and the college level.
That's just basketball.
Basketball, this is one of the workarounds they're talking about, because if someone on the A team, which, what's his bucket, who was messing around off the Jazz and touched all the microphones. And
Rudy Gobert.
Yeah, Rudy Gobert, got everyone sick. He's the one who brought the NBA down to its knees, right? And so if they had a B team, then you could, otherwise, because if someone gets sick, then the whole team has to sit out for 14 days. Well, what are you going to do for those games during those 2 weeks? Forfeit.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point.
And I think that's where like baseball struggles and football will struggle, because, football, you have, they're saying with football, it's not going to be much of a struggle because you have 60 to 80 person rosters. Basketball carries how many? 13?
Yeah.
And so in baseball, how many's on the roster? You got your relief pitchers, you've got you got your squad on the field, and you got your people like you and me, just designated hitters.
I don't think you're going to have more than 20 guys on the field or at the game, suited up at the game. I don't think you're going to have more than 20. I think it's a 20-man roster that they work off between your pitching staff, a couple relievers, maybe a pitch hitter, a designated hitter, whatever.
What's crazy is the major league games are going to look like what they do now. That's what the crazy part is.
Last night I watched the 20 for 20 on what was it, the something summer with it was the 1998 home run chase between Sammy Sosa and Mark McGwire. Yeah. And they were interviewing them both and talking to them both and stuff like that. And it was telling that whole story and how magical it was. And I remember I was a 21-year-old kid, I thought I was a kid. Maybe I should have been all grown up. But anyways, and watching that, and that kind of saved baseball. Baseball had a horrible strike in 95. And they struggled coming back, and every year they had less and less numbers, and then all of a sudden you had everyone watching the game, and they were rooting for someone, or they were just rooting for both of them. They both had this good nature about each other. They both congratulated each other. There was no evil bone. They were both good guys that loved their communities that they were playing for, and it was unique. I never put it together when Mark McGwire finally broke Maris's record. It was in St. Louis, in the same, Maris played for St. Louis, and it was on his dad's 61st birthday, and he hit that 61 home run. Yeah. And so dude, there was a lot into it. But what you were just saying, I think that's true, is America, like right now, with everything that has happened, we need a feel-good sports story like that. We need something that can bring us together, and nothing is better than a sport to bring the country together, to rally around it, rally the community up around one big game that we can. It's just so nice to be able to turn off all the crap that's going on. That crap's never going anywhere, and that's why fantasy sports is so popular. You're able to tune out and pretend for just a moment, that you could turn out the rest of the world, and those games. that's why sports is so special in this country, is because we can kind of forget about all the bull crap that's going on and focus around that. And I'm really hoping that maybe towards the end of the year we get another a feel good story or something, like one of these sports, something happens, a Cinderella team, a player, a something that happens that can just bury the hatchet of all of this craziness that we call 2020, you know?
No, I totally agree 100%. I think that at the end of the day, you know, with everything that's going on with our country with COVID, and then also the movements and all the injustice that's going on and stuff like that, if there's one thing that, like you said, ties everybody together, it is sports. Whether you're rooting for the same person or rooting against the same person, it doesn't matter if you're Democrat or Republican. When you're there watching the sport, all the politics go out the window.
Absolutely.
And you're kind of just back to where we were as kids, and
Yeah.
that's just loving the game, and that's definitely what we need for sure.
We definitely need that, and definitely just for baseball needs that bad.
Yeah.
Well, with this bickering back and forth and then finally starting a season, I think a lot of fans are frustrated. I think fans, even football fans, are a little frustrated with everything that's happening and things that's happened in the NFL. I don't know. We need something special. Like, you know, what would be perfect if the Las Vegas Raiders just dominate this year
That would be so awesome.
and then win the Super Bowl over the Seahawks.
That's never going to happen. So, Perry, let's get back to NBA. So your podcast is on the NBA. Vegas is looking at being one of the hub cities for the NBA. What are you guys' prediction on that? What's your podcast saying?
Well, the NBA actually just came out, and they're going to start the season. They're going to finish the season, I should say. They're going to do 8 regular season games and then the playoffs, and they're looking at a July 31st return at Disney World in Orlando.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right. And
What, the championship game there?
No, it was
return.
They're gonna. So the NBA season, there's 82 games in a season, and they were about at 65 games before the COVID hit, and so now they're just going straight into the playoffs. So the top 8 teams from each conference will go, and then a couple teams on the bubble from each conference, and they're all going to Disney World, and they're calling it a bubble that they're going to. They have to be in certain hotels. The teams do. They have to be tested for COVID every other day, and their families can't even come. It's kind of just like they're at a basketball
no
tournament.
fans in the stands.
No.
Yeah.
You know what they could do is do the teddy bear thing like they did in Korea. You ever watch any of their baseball games?
No.
You're never up that early in the morning?
I'm up that early, but I didn't. Korean baseball is not on the priority list.
If you enjoyed Little League baseball, Korean baseball is right there. It is
I do
that kind
like
of
Little League baseball.
Then you'll enjoy Korean baseball. It's great. You just can't read anything that's anywhere. Well, at least I can't. But that's besides the point. They put stuff like bears and characters and cartoon characters, and they filled the stands in the seats with them. So you had SpongeBob behind the plate, and like all these cartoon characters.
Yeah, I think the NBA has a really good opportunity right now. Going back to what we said about the superstar players, is since there won't be a crowd or anything like that, I think it would be so cool if for once they mic the players up. If they just mic the players up and you hear what the players are saying on the court, like while you're watching it on TV. Because everybody wants to hear the players. Like, they're probably talking trash to each other. Like, Eric tries to talk trash when we play basketball in the morning.
You do?
I have no idea what he's talking about. First of all, he's talking about pre-COVID when we used to play basketball. And then what he may be referring to is maybe a gentle nudge or maybe a gentle wink, or as when I splash it, you know.
I know better, dude. I know better. I could just imagine that with the smack talking in pickleball.
Oh, that's half the game.
Is it?
Oh, yeah.
Because there's so much downtime?
No.
Or
no, when you win like me, it just never stops. All I do is win, no matter what.
Oh, man.
Well, so you gave a little shout out to Kyrie. I thought Kevin Durant and Kyrie were sitting out these playoffs.
They are.
So what's your opinion on that? Like, why? Most of the superstars are like, we could use the checks. Let's get those checks rolling.
Yeah.
Kyrie's like, I don't know what he's got. I guess because he's in the Players Association, he's trying to make a stand. But what's your opinion?
Yeah, I think Kyrie's personality-wise has kind of always been off the wall. He's a little weird. He's the one who said the Earth is flat. So I mean, it starts with that, and then
He does play on a flat court.
yeah. But obviously, there's been a lot of talk with a lot of the players wondering if they should even go and play, first of all, because of the safety, and second of all, because of all the riots going on. And the NBA is predominantly African-American players. And so a lot of them are saying, if we start the season back, just like we were saying, sports is going to distract us from what's really going on in the world. And I don't know if I agree with that fully, because I feel like if you get all of these famous superstar athletes in the same place at the same time in such a big platform as the NBA, when there's no other sports going on and everybody's watching,
It may turn into a political thing, you're saying?
well, yeah, but they'll at least be able to advertise to the whole world.
Yeah, that's
Whereas
true.
if you stay home and don't play, you might go to a couple riots in your city, and that's it.
Jump on Twitter.
Yeah. But here, I mean, they could really do a lot, I think, as far as social injustice goes, whether or not you believe in it right now or you don't. I just think that,
It helps their platform.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
If they play.
So, well, let's talk about who else is on your podcast with you.
So I have a friend from college, and he's my co-host. That's with me every time. And then
Does he play basketball?
no, he just loves it. Like, he's like the biggest basketball, and like he plays like rec, but like he didn't play like in high school or college,
Yeah.
or anything like that. And then we just have a different guest on every time, and it's just been really fun. We had my brother-in-law on. He's one of the top trainers, personal trainers in Utah for basketball. Personal training in basketball has become really big. So like, if you're wanting to be a basketball player, like, you need to have your trainer that you go to that works you out. And
Who are some of his clients? Or can you name drop a couple of the clients that he's worked with? Or?
well, he's worked with a bunch of the BYU and UVU players there. And just the top he has a AAU program that has some of the top high school players in Utah.
So are they worried about, I know there was a scare, with some of the economics. One of the things that, people are wondering is, how does COVID affect the economics of the college and high school games? And, so next semester, most of the universities across the nation are going digital. And so now they're worried about even having enough students to even warrant, teacher paycheck, professor paychecks and whatnot. And so, and part of that too is, we talk about athletics. We've had UNLV baseball. We've had UNLV cheer in here. And one of the things we really haven't broached, because they're not on that level, but what is some of your insight on what do you guys think will happen on those levels financially? Because a lot of those is trickle down economics, that a lot of kids, hey, I'm going to this AAU program, going to the trainer to hopefully, get a scholarship. Well, one of the things that's going to be cut back will be scholarships if there's not enough students paying, tuition, then that part of those scholarships come out of tuition. And then if there's not, enough money for the coaches, or not enough money for, like, there could be a downturn in their, they don't know yet, but there's a big potential downfall in the whole university system.
Yeah. And I think there's been a need for change in the college system anyways, especially as far as sports go. I think it's pretty corrupt. The fact that the schools are making so much money off these players, and they can't even sell their jersey to get money.
Yeah.
And so
And you can't give out a dessert either.
yeah,
No Pazookies for the players.
yeah. I mean, I think it's ridiculous if you think about Zion Williamson and how big he was at Duke this
Yeah.
last year. You couldn't get a ticket when they played North Carolina for under $7,000, and that's just for one ticket for a college
crazy.
game
Yeah.
because of one player.
Yeah.
And he doesn't see a dime from that, and the school just rakes in all the money. And so there's definitely been changes to where players will get paid off their performance, but I do think that we are going to see it's going to be crazy to see kind of what happens, especially because all the AAU tournaments this summer have been canceled, and maybe we'll see the NBA kind of go back to where it was, where you can come straight out of high school and be drafted instead of having to go to college.
Oh, yeah, that's been totally swept under the rug.
Yeah.
That was a big discussion. So,
And I don't, right when this COVID thing, all these universities started crying about money because they were losing in tuition and stuff like that. But the amount of money they made in all the past years in sports, I'm like, whatever, dude.
Yeah, if you look at like Ohio State
That's
football,
bullcrap.
it's like the amount of money they make is
Yeah.
absurd.
Yeah, don't tell me that if now a bunch of engineers ain't going to school there anymore, then now you're hurting for money. Give me a break, dude. Whatever. These people just crying just to cry, I guess. But anyways, so your prediction on, or what you think of an NBA coming in, or an NBA team coming to Las Vegas?
I've been saying it for a couple of years. I think when the NBA expands, which I think they will, in the next couple of years, hopefully a team or two, it's either going to be Las Vegas or Seattle, where they put a team. Las Vegas would be perfect. We've seen what happened with the Golden Knights and how much support.
The market's here.
Oh yeah, it's crazy. And with the Raiders coming in, and then you get an NBA team that could play in the T-Mobile Arena. That's
Easy.
already there for them. I mean, everything's already set for an NBA team.
We already have a WNBA team. That's
Yeah.
not doing too bad at all.
Well, yeah, I went to one of those games with my wives and with my
my
wives.
wives. Oh, Perry.
That's that BYU Idaho right
Yeah.
there.
That's the Idaho side right there.
Bringing polygamy back. But no, with my wife. And it was pretty full in there, and it was pretty electric for a WNBA game. So, I mean, if you see that, if you bring an NBA team in, I think Vegas would be just
The Las
fine.
Vegas Supersonics,
Yeah.
right? Huh?
I think that's actually been floated out there.
Really?
Yeah, what happened was Vegas had the All-Star game here, I think like 8 years ago. It was like 7 or 8 years ago, and it didn't turn out too well. So that's why
Yeah.
What do you mean it didn't turn out too well? Not too many people went?
crime was high, betting was low. What else was there? Yeah, the NBA was given a we'll call you, don't call us
Yeah.
business card. And so, and I think the NBA has grown too. Like, you know, we talk about brand ambassadorship, we talk about Kobe, we talk about King James, is, you know, things are a lot more recognizable and kind of actually plays into that Vegas mantra. So, yeah. So what are your other predictions? Who do you think's going to win this asterisk year?
I do think it will be the Lakers. I just think it's
Spoken like a true Lakers fan.
Oh, of course. Dude,
Yeah.
they were dominating over the whatever season we had before.
yeah. I
Hey,
mean,
if our listeners would like to contribute, I'm a 12 and a half. I'd love some new King James. So I can be a Lakers fan too with the right motivation. Once again, 12 and a half, 13, depending on the model. So I know Nike's down right now. They could use the business. So
No, I definitely think for sure the Lakers. It's just crazy to see. I mean, obviously with the Jordan documentary just coming out, but perfect time for it to come out and everybody's home. But easily making the case that he's the GOAT. It's kind of hard to ignore LeBron still at what he's doing at his age. It's his 17th or 18th season, and he's almost averaging a triple-double.
Well, and so that's that's going to be the hardest comparison. You got someone like LeBron who dwarfs everyone. He plays point guard. He plays a shooting point guard, power forward position, which was never available, or not even available. But I mean, you really have Michael Jordan, Karl Malone, and even John Stockton all rolled up into one person.
Yeah.
And so, him and Michael have completely two different games.
Yeah, you can't really compare them. I mean, you could definitely compare Michael Jordan and Kobe because they played exactly the same.
Yeah.
And I think LeBron is even more compared to Magic Johnson than he is to Michael Jordan. And yeah, I mean, I think they have the best chance to win it this year. They looked really good before COVID happened, but I mean, it's been 3 months off, so.
Yeah, but LeBron trains year round. That's what his secret is. So we had Dr. Hansen in here talking about stem cell therapy, and I remember listening to stories about Kobe flying to Germany to get his blood swirled, and they talked about being controversial, and it was actually great getting that little education from Dr. Hansen that, hey, this is the 3 type of treatments you can have. This is for your post-op. This is what they actually do. And if you look at photos and videos of LeBron in the offseason, he slims down and then he bulks back up to go through the basketball season because he's going to get beat up. And, to have that longevity, like I hear his nutrition is like meal prep to the nth level.
Oh, I bet.
I mean, and that's easy when you have a full-time chef cooking for you, though.
Thank you. It's the same reason why Magic does he still have AIDS, or did he beat that?
Perry, you got the NBA podcast. Why don't you tell us?
I think he still has them.
Thank you.
Yeah, he just has the right treatment.
The best show was it South Park? I think it was South Park making fun of it, and there was how Magic Johnson beat AIDS, and he had an IV in him, and they're grinding up money and liquefying it and then putting it into his veins. That's the way you beat AIDS. Is like the people with the money can fly to Germany and have their blood spun and then be able to be like the bionic man out on the court, that nothing's happening to him. But then the rest of us, and that was one of the topics I brought up with the doctor, is like, it really sucks that insurance isn't even covering this stuff, that your average everyday people that suffer from an elbow or a shoulder soreness or something like that, and then they're forced to go under the knife where there's so many other avenues that they could have went under besides the knife, So anyways, that's a whole nother subject. We got to have the doctor in. I can complain to him more about, I'm just tired of paying money to.
So who are your favorite players? You gave a shout out to Kyrie, which he's just for our listeners at home. Perry is a slasher. His shot's not very good, but he's great at slashing. And so I could see where Kyrie would be, an inspiration for him.
No, thanks for the shout out on my jump shot. That's great. But
could be worse. There's people that we used to play with that have a pathetic jump shot and have been called out, across the pulpit on it. So,
dude, this sounds like a rough little thing you guys are doing, man.
Yeah,
this is serious, huh? Yeah, beating each other up.
There's been some injuries. There's been some blood spilled.
It sounds like it, man.
Some tears shed, some hurt feelings, probably.
Oh man, there's this one game, for those that are listening know what I'm talking about, that someone was crying. So
was it you?
No,
it wasn't you.
No, I'm the complainer. I'm the judge. Oh yeah.
Jeez,
I think if the squad was here, they would say, "Yeah, I'm quick to make calls. I'm quick to blow the whistle."
Yeah, Eric's that token guy who always thinks he's the ref.
Oh, he thinks he's the ref.
He calls everything.
Yeah,
but it's all right. You always need one of those guys.
Yeah, because then otherwise the game gets chippy. And then people start boobing and crying, and no one can make a call because it got too chippy and elbows got a little too sharp. And So I try to keep the game moderated.
Man, I'm glad I didn't take this invitation of coming out and play. This sounds brutal, man.
Hey, you're welcome to
There's no
hold the
crying on
Gatorade bottles anytime you want.
Dude, there's no crying in softball. We're not crying. We build each other up. Unless you
Perry, I don't know what wool he's trying to spin, but if you've been in the dugout with this guy before, it sounds like a construction site.
No way. No. I get in the zone. I bring my dugout stereo, playing music.
Him and 6 other guys all bring their stereo. Well, look at my stereo. It's super nice.
A lot of guys don't like the music I choose, so they always asking me to change it. I put on that old school rap. I like Snoop Dogg, Warren G, the old school stuff.
That's awesome.
Like the 90s, NWA,
Most of the guys you play with have never even heard of NWA. So
I don't know how they haven't. I don't know how I got through high school without them.
So
middle class white boy buying black music. That was me. I loved it.
Well, Perry, real quick, wrapping up on your podcast. What are you guys hoping to do with your podcast? Where are you guys at? Are you guys on iTunes, Podbean?
Yeah. So we're on iTunes and we're on Spotify and a bunch of different platforms. And yeah, it just started as a school project that I did as a marketing student, and it's just something I kept liking to do. So I just kept it going even after school ended. But it was kind of hard once the season stopped. We kind of stopped because there's really nothing to talk about. But we just had our first episode again when they announced that the season was coming back last week. So yeah, we're just hoping to continue to build it and have more and more people on, and it's been really fun.
Booyah. We can't wait to give it a listen and
sure.
Here's some predictions. So I think we maybe do a play-by-play. We all hope that the Lakers win, but if they don't, someone's going to give some commentary. I won't mention who that will be.
Yeah. Oh, I can only guess.
Yeah.
I can only guess. But anyways, no, that's awesome, man. We're happy for it. And we totally understand. We love doing this. So
Yeah.
This is exciting and fun, and you get to meet a lot of interesting people, and we definitely want, our podcast to grow. That's for sure. I'll put a link in our bio so people can hit you up, man.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you guys so much for having me. It's been a lot of fun.
Cool. Thanks,
Awesome.
Perry.
Thanks for everyone listening, man, and hit that subscribe button on iTunes and tell a friend about the show. And if you like our past episodes and some of the guests we've had, tell them about it. They're all numbered, so check them out. Thanks for listening.